Yeah, I once was on a long car trip with Christo, and he was widely acknowledged as the king of successional planting, and said to him, what's the key to having a border looking good for a very long period of time? And I assumed he'd say, well, you get out your calendar and you say, what's in flower in January, what's in flower in March, and it was, his answer was exactly the opposite. He said, decide when you want the garden to peak according to when you're most likely to use the garden. Achieve an extraordinary peak at that time. And then, having achieved that, start to tease those seasons out in a way that never compromises the peak. And the moment you think of it like that, to me, that makes a lot more sense than doing the how much have I got in flower across the year thing. So to achieve one massive big explosion and then tease it out with bulbs and things, And it's really worked very well for me, because in my case, I'm in a cooler part of Australia, so I want the garden to be at its best in February, March, so late summer, early autumn. Really achieve that then, and then think, what can I squeeze in for earlier and later that doesn't pull down the peak,
I mean, we think in levels. Like we start with we have a very early spring in this region, so we are really focused on bulbs because everybody appreciates that at the most. Also to have these strong colors, and then I try to have an early blooming around May, June. I use a lot of steppe plants. They are early bloomers, and then go a little bit more dormant, like the salvia. And then I have a second peak in high or late summer.
Which are more plants from prairies.
More prairies, exactly. They warm season plants grow slowly and then have the flower in August and September, and the grasses, of course, all over the autumn. So, and then after the early cut, we cut back the early flowers like salvia and achillea, and then they are down, so they're not so visible, but covering the ground, and then the others appear. But you have to balance the amount of plants, as you say. Put the focus on the summer plants, then you have less flowers for the early bloomers. If you put it in an equivalent, it's
it never reaches a proper peak. It looks like half baked at all times.
So it's also about how to put, which amount to put on each side, so you have a good combination.
So do you find the steppe plants survival right then the somewhat more moist conditions that you have to provide for the later summer?
Most of my plantings are low maintenance plantings, so I try to plant on the right plants on the proper place without any extra irrigation.
Okay. Even the late summer stuff, this stuff that goes without irrigation.
Yes, this summer makes us think it new because we didn't have this 16 weeks without rain, and the more higher class gardens, they want to have it proper, but I'm not really persuaded with automatic irrigation because it needs really a good adjustment for every plant type. Shade is different than a mixed planting, and we have really in private gardens problems because people turn it on and think it's better more than less, and I prefer less than too much because plants are more stable. The whole habitus, how we call it, is more fits to the plant better instead of growing it really heavy. And
I feel like that is possibly one of the take-home messages of the last week and a bit for me since Beth Chatto Symposium through here is it's kind of like almost like the drier your conditions, the better, in terms of the greater opportunities that everyone seems to be now perceiving moisture and moist climates as too tough to deal. Like give me the dry, give me a highly stressed place, give me the stress.
Yeah, but at the same time, we think now that we need also these moist, intensive plants in our inner cities, because that's the only way to cool down our cities by the evaporation. If we have these dry plantings with no water, they don't help the climate in the city. They give an aesthetic aspect, but they are not helping our climate actually.
Wow, that's an amazing thing. Yeah.
That's a new thinking because we have some of the rainwater still in summer. I mean now it's all empty, but we should use that for our planting, store it more and more, and should use that in our cities for our planting, so we have evaporation.
Wow, that never occurred to me. Yeah.